Contrary to what this shirt says, I actually care, especially about this topic. So let's get into this video. Hey guys, welcome back. Welcome back to the Still Soul mental health space. I'm happy that you're here. If you are just joining me for the first time, welcome. I hope you stick around. And if you are a repeat watcher, I'm happy that you're back. Hope you guys are doing good. Hope that the new year has been good to you so far. Today's topic is, hopefully that's what my title is, but as the title suggests, we are going to talk about suicidal ideation. What is it? What can cause it? And what signs you can look out for, that kind of thing. So I don't expect, or I don't think this would be a very, very long video, but yeah, just stick around, stay tuned. Yeah, so first of all, what is suicidal ideation? So very simply, it is the thought of wanting to die or taking one's own life. So, and that's actually two distinct things. Wanting to die doesn't always mean wanting to take your own life. However, that desire to die is ideation as much as wanting to take your own life, right? There are two types of suicidal ideation. There's passive and there is active. So passive suicidal ideation, it is wishing to die but not having a plan in place to do so. Active suicidal ideation is wishing to die. So it's not only having the thoughts and the desire to die, but also having a plan in place to do so, right? So what are some causes of suicidal ideation? And I think these can also, it's basically what will cause somebody to want to end their life or want to die. So mental health conditions, other types of mental health conditions. So depression, if persons are struggling with like bipolar disorder or experiencing okay, bit of intermission there. What was the last thing I said? Right, so what can cause suicidal ideation? So mental health conditions like depression, having bipolar disorders, being under a lot of stress, being under like a great amount of stress to the point where you can't function at all, and you feel like the best way out of the stress is to not exist anymore. That can also contribute to suicidal ideation. Another thing is being exposed to violence or abuse, experiencing chronic physical illness or chronic pain. Again, some persons are experiencing things that seem so overwhelming that the best way out of it, they believe, is to not exist anymore. Having a history of suicidal attempts, having a family history of suicide, substance abuse, or mental disorders, post-traumatic stress, and post-traumatic stress disorder, and feeling hopeless, isolated, and or lonely. So basically, these are all essentially causes of suicide, like what would drive somebody to suicide. So I guess you can say that before the actual suicide comes the ideation. So you think about it, you kind of stew on it a bit. You probably start in the passive, and then if you don't get like early intervention, then you would move into active. And again, if there's not intervention there, then attempts or fulfillment of the act, right? So what you guys already know. I'm looking at the book. So if I look it down, I don't know by now. Yeah? So what, according to medical news today, a person who has suicidal ideation may talk about feeling guilt or shame. So something may have happened in their lives, or maybe that's just a perpetual feeling that they have, just embedded in them, feeling guilt or shame of the kind of life that they live, or having accomplished certain things, or not being on the level that they thought they would have been, or not meeting up to expectations. It can be so many different things. Another thing is they may talk about feeling like a burden, and Lord have mercy, we know, well, probably not everybody, but some of us know what that feeling is like when you feel like you are a burden. You feel like you're not contributing much to life, and you're only weighing down on the people around you, the people that you love, and you don't have enough, you think, to contribute to them, or to give back to them, or to support yourself, so that you're not so heavily dependent on others. So feeling like a burden can also be something that persons who have suicidal ideation may talk about. And another thing, which is very straightforward, talks of death. I mean, if a person that you know or love, or both, they all of a sudden, it's not like death has been like a integral part of the kinds of conversations that they would have. However, in recent times, they start talking about death a lot more frequently and easily. They talk about it casually. That could be something to look out for, right? I'm not saying that everybody who talks about these things are suicidal, but it's something to pay attention to, especially if that was not the nature, or that was not their nature or their mode of conversation before. Right? Cool. So, feelings that they may have as well, unbearable emotional pain. So the feelings of guilt and being a burden and shame all come with this, unbearable, like this heavy emotional pain. Depression comes with that too. You feel just so incredibly overwhelmed when you experience depression. I don't know if you have ever experienced depression, like clinical depression, then you really get it. It can be so sucking. Another thing that they may feel is severe fluctuations in mood, or they may have like really terrible mood swings. They may feel trapped, hopeless, empty, and they may feel like there's really no point in living. Another thing is that they may feel very anxious, very sad, easily irritated, stuff like that. So in addition to those feelings, some other things that you can probably look out for if it's somebody that you are around. So for the person who's experiencing suicidal ideation, those are the feelings that they will have. But for persons, or some feelings that they may have, for persons who are observing on the outside, some of the things that you can look out for is them withdrawing. Isolation is a big thing when it comes to mental health issues, and when it comes to suicidality, suicide ideation, it's no different there. I mean, being isolated is so dangerous. There's so much space for things to just go left, So Persons withdrawing, again, if that has not been their behavior before, if you don't know them to be introverted, or even if they're introverted, you feel like something is a little bit more extra, that's something to look out for. Another thing is using drugs or alcohol more frequently, irregular sleeping patterns, so whether they are having insomnia or hypersomnia, and we know what insomnia is, not sleeping enough. Hypersomnia, you're sleeping excessively, and they are more risky. They are engaging in more risky activities, so they may pick fights, or they may like speed. They may go off into lonely spaces without telling anybody where they're headed. Stuff like that, stuff that put them at risk of getting hurt or dying. And another thing is that they start giving away stuff, giving away their possessions. They have no interest in keeping any attachment, remaining attached to anything, right? Because as far as they're concerned, they're preparing to go. Yeah. So I have a few suggested ways to deal with suicidal ideation. A point to note is that while it can be great to have these different things in place to support family members and your loved ones, if you realize that what is happening with your loved one is way more than you can do as a layperson, as a family member, as a home support system, seek professional help. And if you are in Jamaica, there is a hotline called New Life. I think it is the suicide hotline set up by the Ministry of Health. And I will try to put that information somewhere here. Yeah. Or in the description box, or both. But yeah, so if you realize that what you are trying to do to help your family member is not working or is not enough, then seek professional help, whether it's New Life Hotline or it is therapists, psychiatrists, the police, whatever. So psychotherapy or talk therapy is good. It helps people to understand their thoughts, their feelings, and the experiences that they have that are disrupting their mental well-being. And I mentioned before, if you see that your support for your family member or friend isn't adequate, then seeking that professional help, including talk therapy, is, good. Another thing is supply ongoing support. So as a family member, as a friend, as a trusted person, you want to try to ensure that you are, it's known that you're there for them. You want to avail yourself, of course, with boundaries, because you don't want to like open yourself up and you start to become overwhelmed with what's happening with them. You have to have your boundaries in place, but letting the person know that you are there for them, you're there to support them, you're here to listen to them, you're not here to judge or criticize or belittle what they're feeling. You're here to listen. You're here to listen, you're here to listen, you're here to listen. And then put a safety plan in place, a suicide safety plan in place. That can include having emergency contacts. So let's say, for instance, you have a friend, a roommate, and the roommate has expressed, or you see sign, or they have suicidal ideation. You want to know who can you call, who can you contact in case things really go so. So apart from the police, the hospital, whatever, you want to be able to know who else can I call, family member, a friend, somebody who probably know them longer, they trust a lot, who can you contact. Another thing that you can do is think about short-term intervention. So how are you going to help the person to not carry out the act? How can this person, what methods can be used to help this person to not carry out the act? So it's a case where you're going to have somebody stay with them, in their rooms, or stay with them in their house while they're going through that period until you can get the professional help or get more support. Is it that you are going to kind of like distract them from what's happening, remove them from their immediate environment, bring them into a place that is safe, secure, that is comfortable, and again, where they can, unwind, where they can relax, where they can, I guess, see things from a different perspective, if that makes sense. Let me know if that makes sense. Another thing that you can do is for the safety planning, is to limit their access to lethal means of self-harm. So remove any kind of pills, any drugs that they may have access to, any weapons that they may have access to, any poisonous substance, which include like cleaning stuff, rat poison, anything that can do severe fatal damage to them, right? So we're talking about how you can support somebody if they are struggling, and again, if what they're experiencing is more than what you can handle, seek professional help, reach out to the professionals. Cool. What about you? What if you are the one that is struggling with suicidal ideation? One thing you can do is identify your triggers. What is happening, or what has been happening over the last few days? What's in your environment that has caused you to feel like, okay, I don't want to be here anymore, I need to go. So identify those triggers, and if you can remove yourself from the situation that the trigger is at, or if you can find a way to remove that trigger, then that would be very helpful. If you can find a way to get support from somebody to help you maneuver through the effects of the trigger, also very helpful. Wow, this video is going longer than I really wanted it to, but yeah. Another thing is so self-care. All right, let's pause. I know that self-care is like very commercialized nowadays, and like when we think about self-care, we think about fancy stuff like fancy baths, fancy skincare products, shopping, luxurious things, and yes, those are part of the self-care, and those are like the glamorized parts of self-care. But sometimes, especially in cases like these, especially with mental health struggles, self-care can look like simply getting up in the morning and taking a shower, changing your clothes, brushing your teeth, probably putting on different pajamas, and going straight back to bed. Maybe for you, self-care is just making sure that your body is clean for the day. Also, just sleeping. No fancy nothing, just getting proper sleep. That is good self-care, and I talk about it so often on this channel. Self-care, or sleeping rather, is so important. Good sleep is so important. Adequate rest is so important for your mental well-being. Eating properly. We know for a lot of us, when we are experiencing heavy things, and we're experiencing like depressive episodes or anxiety or like real serious stress, or proper food is the last thing on our minds. We're not thinking about cooking a whole 3-course meal and sitting down and eating it. We're thinking about whatever is happening right now and how we can deal with it. Food is not it, honey. However, having good nutrition, proper nutrition, and eating properly is so critical. And I feel like such a hypocrite saying this. Like, right now, doing this video, I'm hungry. I can't tell you what I eat. Actually, I had that sandwich a while ago. Oh, Lord have mercy. Practice what you preach, PK. Another thing, that you can do to cope is relax and unplug from social media, unplug from, a lot of times I feel like when it comes to like dealing with when it comes to dealing with mental health struggles, and when it comes to dealing with like suicidal ideation, sometimes the constant influx of information and the constant need for attention can be very, very overwhelming and triggering. It can feel almost like when rain falling really, really hard and it's cold, and the rain coming down in like this sheet kind of thing, and it's like pricking your skin. I don't know if you ever experienced that. Like, I traveled somewhere in 2018 in the winter time, so it's cold, like super cold, and then we're walking through the rain, terrible, and it was falling in sheets, and it was like slant, that kind of rain, and the place is super cold, and then the rain feels like just these things just stabbing your skin. I feel like trying to function normally, trying to stay connected, can feel like that, as well as like super exhausting. Probably in the next video, the next suicide conversation video, I'm going to talk about my own experience with suicidal ideation. I'm going to share my story. So yeah. Another way to cope is to stay connected to your support system as much as possible, as much as you can afford to. Maybe you won't necessarily want to have conversations with them, but it's even to have somebody sit with you in silence. Hopefully they can afford that. Just sit with you. That's it. No talking, no small talk. Just sit with me. Get active. For some persons, sometimes, and we know that physical activity, exercise is good for our mental health as well. So sometimes just getting active, moving your body, changing position, being in a different space can help. And of course, when all else fails, if all else fails, before all else fails, therapy, psychotherapy. Talk to someone, talk to a professional, so they can help you to work through what it is that you are experiencing. So I hope this video was informative. I hope that what I shared made sense. And if you know anybody at all who may be experiencing suicidal ideation, whether it's active or passive, again, the number to call, they can contact someone for the suicide hotline, and try your best as much as possible, as much as you can, to support the ones that you love, right? I always talk about social support being healing. Just being able to just be there for someone, hold their hand, tell them it's okay and I'm here for you, can really help. So yeah, don't forget to like this video, comment below if you've had any experience with suicidal ideation, or if this information makes sense, and share this video with your friends. Share this video in your group chats, share this video on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. Share it all over the place, because I'm off social media and I can't share it how I want to. So y'all better help me, please. Thanks. But yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.